Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Propy's weekly webinar series that we're doing. It's all based upon how to build your business online through these very interesting times that we're in today. Today, our special guest, who I'm super pumped to be with today, is Luke Monroe. Luke is actually just down the highway from me in the Bay Area as well. Luke, can you take a second to introduce yourself and tell everybody just a little bit about you?
Sure, happy to. So I'm Luke. I am the founder and broker at Kendrick Realty. So we are indeed just down the road. Our main office is in Pleasant Hill here in Contra Costa County. We have another Bay Area or I guess Central Valley office in Sacramento as well. And have a real strong focus for our agents on the Bay Area markets, from Sacramento through Yolo, Solano, Contra Costa, Alameda, and then up through Marin and Sonoma County. We've got a terrific team of realtors that work for us here. We also have a huge back office team that supports our realtors, and a development team that helps us with our kind of online and tech aspirations.
That's awesome, Luke. You know, when we had a prep call last week, had a really good idea of what I wanted to talk with you about, but to say that that I wasn't, you know, just shocked and blown away with the extent of what you're doing and how thought out and methodical it is. You know, it's just really impressive. You know, so we talked a little bit about your brokerage, which is Kendrick Realty. You know, again, based out of the Bay Area here in California. Tell me a little bit about your background. You were into investments through the foreclosure crisis. Through that, you saw an opportunity. Tell us about that opportunity and you know what Kendrick was built on. What's that core value?
Yeah, sure. So my background, exactly right. I came into real estate kind of in the foreclosure wave following the 2008 financial crisis. I was fortunate enough to be involved with a company at the time that figured out how to do very well during a difficult time. They were buying foreclosure properties, renovating and reselling, and that company had a great business model. They had the cash. They were able to purchase properties. They did all of the renovation work in house, ran renovation crews to do all of the work, so they could really keep tight control of production, of quality, of scheduling, of timing, and then had the real estate sales team in-house as well to sell those properties. And I had an opportunity to live in San Diego, Seattle, Washington, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, Atlanta, Georgia, Orlando, Florida, Nashville, setting up satellite offices for that company all around the country, which gave me a great perspective on real estate generally, but also on how real estate happens kind of all across our country. Which was a huge learning experience for me, and something I really enjoyed.
Sure.
But as I was going through that, one of the things that really stood out to me was the kind of tremendous opportunity that company had that they were missing, and that opportunity was they controlled inventory. They had beautiful flipped homes coming on the market every day, kind of at scale. At one point, here locally in Solano and Contra Costa County, that they were buying 20 homes a week. So, I mean, you can just imagine if you had that kind of inventory, putting 60 or 80 homes on the market, flipped beautiful homes every week, and all of that inventory was going to your brokerage, you should have been a powerhouse. You should be the biggest local brokerage, controlling the local market. And they just didn't do that. Their real estate brokerage aspirations were purely internal facing. They only wanted to list their own properties. They didn't want to take advantage of all of the buyers, all of the interest that those properties were generating. And that was a huge miss that I saw. That was a real opportunity. Unfortunately, I didn't have the $300 million that they did to buy property and kind of replicate that kind of scale of inventory. So I got my start on the real estate brokerage side using online leads. And the way that I saw this was really kind of following a similar approach to my previous employer, where we can take in these online leads, take in all of this opportunity, and quickly build and scale a real estate brokerage in a way that a traditional real estate brokerage that's focused on organic growth through networking, through relationships, through bringing on new realtors who are, or existing established realtors who have all of those relationships. That's obviously it works, the traditional method of growth for a real estate brokerage, but it's much more slow, and it doesn't leave the company with the same kind of degree of control and ability to grow and choose where to grow and choose kind of what markets we're excited about. Online leads, we found, gave us that flexibility, not only to grow astronomically fast at any scale we chose, but also to be very specific about, I want to buy leads in this county or this city or even this zip code, to be very specific about and strategic about growing where we saw opportunity, where we had great talent.
That makes a lot of sense. So, essentially you were in the business, but kind of on the periphery of the brokerage business. And so you saw this company who was doing what a lot of people were doing, right? Buying homes, flipping them, but they were buying them, one a month, right? You guys were buying, 20 a week essentially per market. So to do that, you had to be smart, you had to be strategic, build processes, and then to be able to do it at scale, right? Because, the thing about scale is it could be really good or it could be really dangerous, right? Because when you're doing it and you're perfecting it, you increase your profit margins. But when everything's loose and there's holes in it, you essentially just lose money everywhere, right? And so they were strong there, but you saw an opportunity essentially where the brokerage, kind of, if I take what you're saying, was more of an afterthought. And, even on top of that, they really didn't think, or it wasn't part of their core business model to incorporate in the buyer leads and to be able to create another revenue funnel there, if you will. So, I see that you're a student of the game, you're paying attention, as you're playing along, and you saw an opportunity there. And so, what is it that, brought you back to the East Bay to be able to build out Kendrick?
So there's a couple of things that really attracted me to the Bay Area. First, it's home. I grew up locally. I grew up in Concord. So that was something that made strategic sense. We were already tied to the area. But when we think about our business model specifically, we were looking for a market that had significant population density in a relatively confined area, because if we're buying online leads and they're coming from everywhere, we think of windshield time basically as dead time, right? So we need it to be an efficient process for our realtors to get out to do these showings with clients. And if they're driving 2 hours each way, as opposed to 20 minutes each way, that's a big difference in how many showings they can do, how many face-to-face appointments they can have, and therefore in what their production can be. But we actually didn't start with only in California. We had a sister operation in Central Florida that served the Orlando and Tampa markets, and we set that up strategically. I had a good friend, or have a good friend, who ran that office for us. And what we ultimately wanted to prove is this: we're not here to be just a real estate brokerage, although that's a great goal. This is for us, this is the future of how real estate transactions will be conducted. We're all in on this idea of online leads, on building the systems, having the checks and balances, having the team, the parameters in place to convert online leads to close sales, and to do that at, as you mentioned, Nick, at scale. And so one of the things we wanted to do was test and just make sure, hey, we know that this is working in the Bay Area, but will it work in other markets? And so we went to Central Florida, which has a higher than average nationwide per capita transaction velocity, but is right in line nationwide with the national median sales price. So we went to a market where we were transacting at a much lower sales price than we do in the Bay Area, and we're able to prove there not only that the same model worked and that we could do it profitably, but that we saw a path to being able to follow our business model on really a nationwide footprint. So our operation, we pulled back to refocus just on California as a higher sales price, really to keep the kind of center mass as we're starting to aggressively expand over the next year. But that's where we're at now. We opened our Sacramento office earlier this year. We've got a great team of people who have joined us and started with us up there. And we're planning to continue to build out, adding offices and team members all throughout the northern part of California over the next year before we start expanding into Southern California as well.
Well, that's exciting, Luke. Yeah, I just find it so fascinating. I felt that it was important to preface, why you picked the Bay Area, because I knew it was strategic for you. I knew that you looked at more just, yeah, sure, it's home, but home also meant, there was, all these different positive things, right? Again, the agents didn't have to be on the road for a couple hours between showings, way above average sales price, good velocity as far as, trades here in the Bay Area. So, that whole strategic, alignment was more than just what I want to build my brokerage off of. It's also where I want to build it, where I want to test it. And then, being able to test it in a different market. And, part of what we talked about was, and you started to touch on it, brokerage is not a new business, right? And our world is changing so quickly. And one of the things I shared with you that, kind of frustrates me a little bit is, brokerages haven't really kept up, with the change in the times. In fact, a lot of brokerages, and I've made the mistake myself at times, say, I wish it was like this 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, right? As opposed to creating the better tomorrow. And so, with you saw something that a good number of brokerages are incorporating, which is online lead generation, buying through the portals. But then you also saw from your background that there were some flaws in the way they were doing that, right? And so, you wanted to build a company that was able to scale, but scale through perfecting a process that other people, frankly, just have not done a great job on. So like I was sharing with you, you kind of run it, more like a true corporate business, more from that MBA background versus, somebody who's a top producer that, is just kind of do it on the back of a notepad. Can you share with me, a few of the metrics as far as, when you got into online lead generation, was it, a big leap in the pond? Was it a small leap? Did you gradually grow into that? And then also share with me, just a little bit about how you've been able to build a process where it sets the agents up for success. Because, a couple stats that we've seen are, it takes the average online lead, anywhere from 12 to 18 months to convert into a transaction. 90 some odd % of people are shopping online, right? These are pretty well-known facts. But then other things of, the typical agent is only responding to these online leads 1.5, maybe 2 times. And it takes 5 to 7 times before you really get to, build that rapport and get that contact. So how is it that you saw these trends and said, let me flip it around. Let me build a better mousetrap to be able to solve these issues. And again, scale my business.
Yeah, there's a ton to unpack there. So I hope I remember.
Well, we have an hour.
And you can bring them back to me for anything that I leave out. But okay. I mean, when we started, you'd asked kind of how did we get started? And there's a couple of things that I would say to that. I was in, as you said earlier, tangentially in real estate. I was licensed as a real estate broker in a couple of different states. I was doing transactions, but it was all for this one investor client, right? It's not a real client. It's not actually out meeting new people or working traditional real estate. So in a lot of ways, it was very liberating because I didn't have the vision of what a real estate brokerage should be. I just had what the real estate brokerage could be. So I wasn't really confined by traditional real estate. And that was that's been to my advantage in a lot of other ways too. Nick, when we talked before, you'd mentioned, for a lot of real estate brokers who see these other opportunities and are thinking about, how do I dig in and take my business to the next step? And they're making a choice between, do I go run this appointment, or do I focus on 5 years from now having a better mousetrap, right? And it's easy to just say, hey, I'm going to go run this appointment. It's money in the bank today, and not think so much about the future. And I have the good fortune of being a terrible salesperson. So I didn't need to worry about trying to go out and run that appointment today, because I knew every single one of my realtors had a much better chance than I did of going out and converting that client to a sale. So I was able to kind of step back and really focus on my skill set of enabling them, as opposed to being worried about carrying my own book of business and trying to go out and make relationships and sell property. So when we got started, I mean, we started with online leads. There was never a phase of, well, let's ease into this, or let's build up a little bit of a buffer and then we'll try online leads, dip a toe in next month. I think my bill the first month with realtor.com was for $12,000. And that was the first month we started the brokerage. We had 0 in contracts. We were starting completely from scratch. And there's definitely some learning that went along with that. You know, you talked about there's kind of this bell curve, right, of when leads start to convert. So there was a little bit of a waiting period. But one of the things that we've focused on, again, was approaching this kind of systemically, of figuring out, okay, we're going to solve for the problems that other people have with online leads. The problems they have are they can't get back to leads fast enough. So I need to be able to staff a around the clock, 7 days a week. We started at 18 hours a day, inbound lead concierge team that I don't have to rely on me or on my realtors always being available to take those leads. So what volume of leads do I need to be able to purchase that are going to justify spinning up this whole inbound concierge team that's going to handle leads 7 days a week for 18 hours a day? And we just worked the math backwards. So we said, okay, this is how many leads I need to justify having this team. This is how much it costs to get that many leads. So that's what we did. We bought that many leads, starting with realtor.com, and the numbers just kept growing from there. We got up to I think the most we were spending at a time on online lead generation. This was a couple of years down the road. It was about $180,000 a month, which is just an astronomical amount. But you know, as you mentioned, we're just focused on conversion metrics. You know, so I'm looking at online leads as I'm buying business, I'm buying transactions. If I'm focused on metrics and I know that that my team can convert 3% of the leads that we get in to close sales, and I'm buying in the Bay Area and my median home price is $500,000, it's pretty easy for me to just work that backwards and say, okay, every lead I buy has X% chance of being a sale at $500,000 and a 2.5% commission. So is this lead at this price a good buy? Yes or no? And every time the answer was yes, I would keep buying those lead opportunities from realtor.com, from Zillow. And we bought opportunity first and matched it with our realtors second. I think that's a kind of cart before the horse problem that a lot of brokerages struggle with. They say, hey, come on, join us, improve yourself, and then we'll give you leads. We'll give you this opportunity. And that's just not the relationship that we have with our realtors. It's a partnership, truly a partnership between me and every one of our realtors, where we're here directing investment into their business from day one for every single one of our realtors. And we're here to help them grow and be successful. And they have to be, frankly, because if they're not successful, if we're not giving them the tools they need to succeed and the support that they need and the training that they need, it's not like a typical brokerage where it's just, you know, oh, well, John didn't produce this month, but good thing we collected the desk fee. I'm out $3,500 that I paid for advertising, plus the overhead cost of the concierge, the back office team allocated to this John. You know, that's not a way that we can run a business. So we need our teams to really be successful. So that's kind of our approach. We really focused on this as a business opportunity, putting the business opportunity of online leads first, not the traditional real estate brokerage model as kind of our first priority. And that's a different approach, frankly, than what I see most people taking. We went to we were at one point the third or fourth largest buyer of realtor.com leads in the entire country for our two offices here in California and in Florida. And we would go to their big events, their top 20 events, and the same thing with the Zillow, their top 100 events for lead buyers. And what I saw and heard again and again from those brokerages was they didn't get it. They were, even the people who were spending money, massive amounts of money on online leads, they weren't treating this systematically. They weren't treating it as a true business opportunity. They were just buying online leads as a recruiting gimmick. Hey, join me and I'll give you 10 free leads every month. They were joining it as a loss leader strategy, hoping that they could, between their real estate and then their title and their lending operations, they could break even on the online leads thing. Yeah. They were hoping that the desk fees would offset the lead allocation that they're giving per person. And that just, it's unfortunate because it's a disservice to the opportunity that is online leads, but really getting at that opportunity, focusing on conversion metrics, focusing on driving more production from those leads isn't easy. I mean, we had to invest in our own CRM, our whole tech side. My partner's done a whole training curriculum on how do we be successful with this business model. And it's different. We have realtors who have been in the business for a long time who join us and really struggle because our approach to real estate is different. And it's a big adaptation for some people.
Yeah, definitely. I've had the good fortune of being able to work through my volunteer work with the association, through NAR and through here in California, CAR. I've been able to meet just a lot of brokers and agents. And, it's fascinating. It confirmed a belief that I had, that I'd always taught my agents, was there's a million ways to make $1 million in this business, and so some of those ways are to be better at various tasks than other people, right? So there's online leads, but then there's online leads. And then there's what you're doing, which is online leads and then perfecting the process, really paying attention to it. And so, part of those discussions or, these conversations that I'm having with people are, the advent of, teams, which is, a huge piece. And then just a compression on the brokerage dollar. And so, the few of the things I extract from, what you're sharing with all of us is, yeah, you saw the traditional brokerage and, yeah, it works, right? But in a way it's a disservice to the agent because essentially you're asking them to come bet on you. But essentially you're really just, in a lot of operations, they're having to bet on themselves to be able to generate this business. Sure, you're giving them a carrot, but that carrot is something that they actually don't know how to eat. They don't know how to consume. And they sure as heck don't know how to consume it in a way where it keeps them fed, right? Keeps the food on the table. And, that's a mistake that I made, both personally and then inside of my brokerage was, I had a pretty good size lead spend with realtor.com and the leads come at 7 o'clock at night and I'm trying to have dinner with my kids, right? But I know it's an investment. I'm a business guy and you kind of get caught. And so, it's one of those things where unless you have the right systems and tools, you can't be successful. But then you still get caught in that, circular trap of, okay, well, I'm the broker owner. I built this. Here's the lead. But do I call this lead back or do I walk into this listing appointment? Do I fill out this, purchase agreement or do I call back this lead, right? Because there's only 24 hours in a day. So, I just feel that, it's a very fresh approach to what other people have been doing. But in essence, what you've done is you've solved, or at least you've created a solution to the compression on the brokerage dollar, because essentially what you're able to do is say, Mr. or Miss Realtor, sure, I'm going to, more than likely want a little bit more commission in return, but I'm going to invest in you, and I'm going to invest in you in a very big way, not only with opportunity, but with the tools and the craft to be able to seize that opportunity, right? So do you feel like that's been one of the real big game changers for you as a brokerage leader, to be able to, strengthen your margins and to be able to use that to reinvest and create new opportunities?
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, when we're talking about bringing new agents on board, we're very, very selective, and I'll tell everybody, kind of the same thing. Like, we're getting close to the end of a final interview. Things are going well. They've looked at our CRM. They're excited about the technology operations. And then I'll remind everybody, this is real. We track, like, per person. This is what we invested in this guy's business last month and in this guy's business. And obviously you can't control how many closings you're going to get in a month, but you can control how much effort you're going to put into that. And when I'm wrong, when we bet on the wrong realtor, my wife will send me to sleep on the couch, right? Because we lost money. That was a bad investment. So, but in all seriousness, there's a real opportunity that we see, and we're trying to take advantage of. There's a lot of really good, hungry realtors out there that have the potential to do so much more than they are, and they just can't get there. And there's a number of reasons. It could be that they have an established family, and they're just not in a place where it would ever make sense for them to sign a year-long $50,000 contract with Zillow or realtor.com to invest in their business, to buy these online leads that would let them do so much more. Right. I mean, that's a tough pill to swallow when you're trying to run your family and your household and talk about being self-employed and investing in your own business. It could be that they just don't have the tools. Maybe they're getting online leads, but like you said, maybe it's an issue of those leads come in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We get leads on Christmas. We get leads at 2 a.m. And I'll be honest, when we started, that drove me absolutely crazy. I would be on the realtors of, hey, you got this lead. There goes another 150 of my dollars. Why haven't you called it? You need to follow up with it. And my partner gets a lot of credit for reminding me that people aren't machines, right? If you're on all the time, you'll get burned out. It stops being fun. It's no longer what you want to do, which is kind of why we needed this whole back office concierge team that allows our realtors to grab leads in real time when they come in, or to be human and to have dinner, or to take a shower, or to go to the movies, and know that their support team is there to make sure that lead will be taken care of, will be nurtured, and that we'll be scheduling appointments for those realtors. And that's worked out so well that over 80% of our first showing appointments are now booked by our back office concierge team, as opposed to our realtors. Leads come into the realtor and the concierge at the same time, but our back office team is consistent. They're working that 9 to 5 at a desk, just waiting for the leads to come in, doing those follow-up tasks, as opposed to being out in the field doing showings, running listing appointments. So it's easy for us to control that environment and make sure that we're giving those customers a consistent experience as well, which has been great. But overall, I mean, the biggest thing that I think is allowing us the success that we're having is that kind of philosophy of mutual wins. Our realtors don't compete with each other. Every lead goes to one of our realtors. Our realtors don't compete with me. They're not worried about me cherry picking the best leads. They're much more on the opposite side of, oh, please this guy reached out to me. I know I'm not going to be able to sell him a house, so you please take this opportunity. We have a better chance of winning together. We're focused on wins for customers. We want to have the best customer experience, the best customer service, fast follow-up, transparent information sharing. all of those kind of things that really allow us as a company to invest in our realtors business, to build them to a point that they wouldn't be able to get to on their own, so that they're being more successful and we're being more successful, and not thinking about that at all as kind of the typical brokerage zero-sum game kind of rules.
Well, that's big thinking, Luke, right? Because, at the end of the day, and we had discussed this, a lot of technology is meant to displace the brokerage, to displace the realtor, to turn into a button, right? And, one of the things that I like about Propy, which is, what brought me to them, was our CEO had a vision of not using technology to replace realtors or brokerages, but to enhance them, to make them more powerful, to make them more efficient, to be able to give them better balance and productivity in their lives, right? And so, I'm hearing that, you're running your brokers like a Fortune 500 company. You're very focused on, metrics and KPIs and all these things that unfortunately a lot of brokerages don't have the capacity to do. Right. But at the same time, you're not trying to fracture, the relationship from the business. This is a relationship business, right? And so, you realize that, that relationship not only is with the brokerage, right? With the agent, but also between the agent and the consumer. And so being able to, invest and empower your agents to let them do what they do best, which in my belief and what you're saying is, that belly to belly, human interaction, sets them up for the best level of success, empowers them, and in return, essentially powers the brokerage, right? And so, if you wouldn't mind sharing, we talked about when you get to a point you start to scale, and essentially you have your eggs in these baskets, right? But these baskets, they're partners of yours, but you don't control them, you don't own them. I shared with you my concerns when realtor.com essentially acquired OpCity, and I said, whoa, what's the angle here, right? Two very different business models, two approaches to the online lead game. And so, as we've seen play out, 2 years later, 2.5 years later, realtor.com has essentially gone to this OpCity model almost in its entirety at this point, right? So kind of explain what your thinking was as your company started to grow, you started to see successes. You also got a couple kicks in the shin where you said, okay, I need to fix this, make this a little better, right? Build a system around it. What was that evolution with Kendrick into, what you're doing now, which I think is super exciting. I want you to share with the world.
Yeah, sure. So when I think you put it exactly right. All of our eggs were in, this basically the Zillow and the realtor.com basket, right? We're an online lead generation company. We have this incredible appetite where we need to be able to generate more than 1,000 property-specific lead inquiries every month, and that's not, even if we said, okay, we're gonna give up on Zillow and Realtor.com, there's nobody else. Nobody else could fill that void. We weren't able to assemble enough other smaller players together to feed us the same number of leads that we got from the bigger players. And so that was something, as you said, approaching it as a business from the start that had the big red warning light on it of, hey, when it goes wrong, if it comes from these guys, it's going to be a catastrophe. This is where our business is based. And, there's a number of ways that we could come up with problems. That $180,000 a month spend when Realtor.com bought OpCity, they started within weeks doubling or tripling the prices that we had for those leads. So yeah, 180 is a lot, but 360 is impossible, and 500, no chance, right? In a month, that would have killed our business. So we started looking several years ago at diversification, at figuring out, okay, how can we do lead generation in a way that's sustainable, that we have control over, so that that's really my job as the broker or the CEO, is figuring out how to solve so that we have as little turbulence as possible for all of our realtors. So we looked at Boomtown, we looked at Wailopo, we looked at Commissions Inc., all of these sites that we differentiate online leads between like a Zillow and a realtor.com, what we call an affirmative opt-in. Somebody's gone onto the site and said, hey, contact me, versus a Boomtown or Wailopo, a forced registration where somebody's gone onto the site, tried to look at those pictures and had to put their information in. Obviously, that's a much lower quality lead, requires a lot more follow-up, a lot more staff to do, or a lot more automation. Anyway, so we went through this whole genesis of trying to figure out where else can we get enough leads from to feed our appetite. And we realized that we just can't. There's nobody else that does lead generation at sufficient scale to meet our needs. And so we started looking internally and trying to figure out, okay, if we can't buy it, can we grow it? Can we build our own online lead generation presence and do that in a way that's substantial enough that we're able to offset the majority of our lead generation from kind of the big players, the realtor.com and the Zillows. That's what we've been working on over the last couple of months. You mentioned realtor.com buying OpCity. I was at the realtor.com T20 top 20 conference when they announced that down at Pelican Hill in Orange County.
And what was your reaction, man? I mean, so it was a big win for you. I mean, like, what was that?
That was it was interesting. I mean, the T20 is basically that you get an award for spending more money than anybody else on realtor.com. So we're in a room with the top 20 spenders, and they come in and announce, hey, just came across the wire. We're closing on the OpCity deal, and there's just silence. Like, you know, what? How are you realtor.com giving us this information that you just bought? OpCity was at that point in time the #1 biggest spender on realtor.com. Yeah. You just bought our biggest competitor and made it a bolt-on addition to that company that we're buying leads from. So now every single lead that we're buying, realtor.com used that competitive model, leads going to 2 places. One half of that lead is going to realtor.com, and the other half is coming to us. And I'm good. I know that my team's good, but I just didn't have the trust that realtor.com wasn't going to game that system. And of course, realtor.com had the ability, because they were absorbing that lead traffic, to really substantially start to inflate their lead costs. So we knew at that point, hey, we got to figure out how to take this in-house. So we started work about 18 months ago now on HouzQuest, and HouzQuest is a sister company to Kendrick Realty. We're live now in Paragon, Bay East, Barry's, and Metrolis.
The Greater Bay Area and
yeah,
Central Valley.
The Greater Bay Area and Central Valley. Through the reciprocal relationships we get, of course, San Francisco, the South Bay, all of our California coverage area.
That's like 40 million consumers, and I mean, that's not a small geographic area.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge, and we were able to build our site again, kind of taking that 5 years down the road approach, not as just a regular IDX site, something that you would get from a Boomtown or something that looks okay, but if you look under the hood, it's just kind of a SaaS site. There's not a whole lot you can do with it to change it or modify it. Our site was 100% custom, and we built it for the future traffic we're expecting to get. And that's been a huge win for us. Our site went live the end of February 2020, just in time for the COVID-19 shutdown, which I will say definitely added a lot of stress to our first and second quarter of this year, just wondering how is this going to go. But when we turn the site live, we have this whole great team that's doing all of our AdWords campaigns, putting together our search campaigns to drive traffic to the site. And we were thinking, in a year, we should be able to generate a significant portion of our own leads internally. We've got to get through the kind of organic growth phases and all of this stuff. And what we found is it took 3 months, even through the COVID time. We were able to take all of our lead generation completely in-house. We have no further need for lead generation from realtor.com, from Zillow. We're able to meet all of our own needs. And that's it's certainly not cheap. It's not like we just finally built this very expensive website and it's producing golden apples. We have a huge Google Ads budget that we're spending every month to drive traffic to our site. But we're really thinking about that the same way we have the rest of the business. I know how much money it costs now to get a lead out of my site. I have the ad campaign set up, so just like I could before, I can turn on advertising at a county, at a city, at a zip code level, and drive traffic to those properties. I can increase advertising up or down in specific areas. One of the biggest benefits, frankly, that I'm looking forward to in the next couple months is I've had a pretty dismal Christmas the last couple years because I'm locked into these 12-month advertising contracts, and all of my realtors go on vacation, which they very much deserve. But then there's no production. I'm paying the same amount in December and January for advertising, but we're selling half as many houses. Now we have the ability to scale up day to day, month to month, how much advertising we're spending. We bring on a new cohort of realtors. We spin up advertising for them where they live, in their cities, in their zip codes, so that we're being hyper focused on decreasing windshield time, on increasing that kind of local expert of, hey, this is the person who lives here. They know the area better than anybody else. If people are on vacation, we can wind down, cut the advertising in their area until they get back. It gives us a lot more flexibility. And our development team has just done a tremendous job. They blew me away in terms of putting that whole site together. And again, the AdWords team has just done an amazing job. So we went from having this kind of all our eggs in one basket thing of total dependence for our business model on a realtor.com, on a Zillow, to now we're still spending that money. It's going to Google, but we're building a real asset. We have this HouzQuest site where we're up to, just in the last couple months, we're getting 80,000 unique users a month just here in the Bay Area, not as a national footprint advertising everywhere. So we're getting a ton of local traffic to our site, and we're to the point that we have to keep growing. We have to keep adding, which was our intent, but we have to keep adding offices and adding realtors now because the number of leads we're able to generate coming through the site will just overwhelm what our realtors are able to keep up with. So you'd mentioned earlier that means we're either adding more offices or we're cutting back on that monthly investment in advertising, so we have more company dollar to reinvest in our future. So that's been really important for us as a next step in terms of our journey.
Well, and exciting too, right, Luke? I mean, how, you see this threat, right? You also see the opportunity. Essentially you're performing that SWOT analysis, right? So your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. And so, you have the threat of, your eggs potentially being in a basket or two, the opportunity of increasing that lead generation, but to create some control because, like you said, December, January, you could tone back that spend and essentially, cut that total year-end ad budget significantly, right? Because it's not the time where people are looking to work or buy or sell. You're capitalizing on your strengths, right? And again, that threat and weakness kind of go hand in hand of, you're relying upon somebody else who you're heavily vested in to be able to convert the opportunities that they're creating, right? And so I just have to give you kudos because, I've always been, I haven't been a fan. I haven't been a naysayer of the portals, right? I saw them for what they are. They're a legitimate business tool that we could use. But you know, like any other tool, you can't go out with a hammer and just start swinging around all crazy. You're going to hurt somebody, right? You got to know what you're doing with it, right? And so, um, you know, I just think it's, you know, really fascinating how, you know, you guys were able to look at it and, you know, look at these opportunities, tweak them, create new opportunities, and, you know, with that become highly successful. So now where you start to scale out your brokerage, you know, for you to potentially acquire a team or an office, you know, you could create essentially instant opportunity for them, right? You had shared, you know, that you had to tone back a little bit because you had too much, but you know, you've got these incredible systems in place. Talking about a good problem to have, you know. So, you know, if you wouldn't mind sharing, you know, as we start to wrap up here, you know, where's the opportunity for well, and for anybody who's paying attention, there's a lot of opportunity shared. But if you really synthesize it for them, you know, what's the opportunity for fellow brokers and agents to be able to, you know, use the philosophies that you're doing to be able to create wins and opportunities for them?
That's a great question. So I think the biggest takeaway that I would give to everybody. This is one of my wife's favorite quotes. Is the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. This best time is today, right? So you have this opportunity. You have a vision of what you want the future to look like. Just because you didn't start already doesn't mean you can't come in tomorrow and say, okay, we need to start planning for the future. We need to recognize what it's going to look like. And you know, everybody has a different vision. I had mine, and I've gone all in on that. But whatever you think that future is going to look like, you need to start building for that. And the things that I think have made us successful are alignment of incentives, right? We really try to make sure what's good for me is good for my agents, is good for the company, is good for the consumers, so that everybody is marching in the same direction. We're not, there's no infighting. We're not fighting over leads. We're not fighting over, well, how come he got this and I got that? We set up a system where it's obviously not perfect, but to the greatest extent that we can, we're trying to keep everybody on the same team, keep everybody marching in the same direction. And then we went for it. We swung for the fences, and we may not quite be there yet, but we definitely are seeing the successes. We did smart business analytics on figuring out, like our website has a 10% search impression share for real estate keywords everywhere in the Bay Area. That's the same thing that realtor.com has, the same that Zillow has, the same that Redfin has, you know, these big publicly traded companies. And here we are, yeah, I'm investing in my business, but I'm definitely not investing at the multi-billion-dollar company level. And we're able to compete toe to toe with those guys because we're taking local market expertise. They're focused on generic keywords, on name recognition. We're able to focus on the neighborhood, on the downtown area, on the things that a local would know because we're here, because we are local. We're looking at what's really important. Like we've talked this whole time about online leads, and online leads was what I focused on as kind of the core for our company. But at this point, online leads are last year's news, and it's all about conversions now. We didn't even touch on, part of the reason we built our online lead generation platform was to pair with our CRM. And our CRM is a proprietary tool that we built specifically for online real estate lead conversion. And I know because I've talked to the guys who are doing this at scale all across the country, the biggest buyers of online leads, our conversion metrics are better than anybody else's because I have a great partner who has invested in the training and understanding that process and learning how to convert and being able to put that into a teachable format for our realtors. And that, I mean, that's something that we really take seriously. trying to always be planning for whatever's next. And so the message I would give to any of our other brokers is, just be thinking about your business as a business. It shouldn't just be the day-to-day. It shouldn't just be you. If you were out of the picture, the business shouldn't fall apart. You need to be building the business that can support you, the systems that can support you, and investing in your people, in your realtors, in your teams, in your office staff, in such a way that you're not only helping them grow professionally, but helping them grow you, helping them grow your company, helping them grow the brokerage. And that I think is really what's allowed us to get to where we have, and is going to take us forward into the next level.
Well, I would definitely agree, Luke. That's the massive opportunity, right? Is to be able to be forward thinking, create the curve, not stay behind it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you saw that firsthand when realtor.com says, great, we have this concierge service. And you're like, dude, I've already got that. Like, we already built that. And so, now, these companies are going to something that you already start tinkering with, not perfected yet, right? But, you're able to sit back, instead of being so focused, in your business, right? In that day to day, you're looking on your business, over your business, 30,000 feet, finding those opportunities. And again, you're doing it on a massive scale, but I think, any, realtor, small, large market can do that for their business and decide, what scale do I want to be at? How do I want to run my business? Luke does it by online lead generation. I'm going to do it through maybe a more traditional model, but I'm going to be, hyper focused, hyper local, fanatic about, making sure that I have a process in place to be able to execute. And I think that's a major takeaway of, again, running your business, running your brokerage like a business. We have just a couple minutes left, so I invite anybody that would like to ask any questions to do so. But, in that time, Luke, what would you like to share that I haven't asked yet, that I haven't had the opportunity to bring out of you? What do you want to share with the group?
I think I'll build on kind of that last thing that you were just touching on, which is you can do this. You can find this kind of success for you as an individual realtor, for you as a team leader, for you as a brokerage owner, really at any level of scale. I started thinking big and trying to start by building infrastructure that would support that future dream. And that's been very expensive along the way, because we've always had the infrastructure of where we want to be a year from now. Mm-hmm. But there are a ton of great companies, tools, and technologies out there that you can use at any scale. If you're a team and you want to be the best at online lead generation, there are a number of companies that can fulfill that back office role of making sure that every lead that comes in gets responded to automatically every time, so that you feel like you can still have balance, you can still have a life. If you're established as a brokerage, I mean, we're here, we're talking about Kendrick Realty, but Propy is here as putting this all on. Look for the tools, the companies, the smart tech companies that are out there that have tools available that are going to minimize the manual work, the inefficient work that you are doing, either as an individual or a team or a brokerage, and figure out then how to redeploy that time that you've freed up more productively back into yourself, back into your business, back into the future. But always keep learning. I wish that I could say that we had gotten everything right, but I can hardly think of anything that we got right. Everything has been an iteration, right? We tried it and it kind of worked, but we need to tweak it to go in this direction. Or we tried it and it totally didn't work. And that's why all the traditional real estate brokerages do it this way. We thought we were so smart being a non-traditional brokerage, but no, we need to fall in line because they had this one right. But the only reason we were able to keep improving and iterating is because we keep trying. We're not afraid to go in and fail and figure out, okay, that didn't work. Let's come back together and reassess and figure out how to reposition ourselves and go forward. So keep investing in yourself, keep trying, keep learning new things, keep investing in your team and your future, and don't be afraid to fail.
Fail fast, but fail forward too, right? Just,
Right.
if you're falling on your face, at least you can put your hand down, get up and keep going. If you fall backwards, it's just a lot harder to get up, right? So, the same thing here at Propy, we're a startup, we're building technology to empower agents and brokers, and we're getting a lot of things right. And we're getting some things that we're able to improve upon and, tweak as we go. But the same thing, it's strategic, it's passion. And, really that's what creates the, big opportunities. And, I can't say enough about how much I've enjoyed this conversation, Luke. I'm really excited just to kind of watch where you and Kendrick go over the years, because again, there's just so many opportunities to be able to create wins. And one of the biggest takeaways that I'm hearing that I want to make sure that everybody hears is, I had some really good advice a couple years back from a very good mentor of mine. His name is Jack Miller. He's with T360. Just an incredible group of people, Stefan Swampo and them. And, he said, Nick, you're doing all this $15 an hour work and you're not a $15 an hour guy, and so, as agents, successful agents, brokers, team leaders, we're not $15 an hour people. And so, use our highest and best use to be able to stay in front of the client, create those opportunities, create those wins. And, with that, that's going to create your sustainability. That's going to create, that real opportunity to grow and blossom, to make more money or to help more people, or create a better quality of life, which again, is what a lot of people enjoy about real estate. Is there's a lot of different paths. So again, Luke, just thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I look forward to hopefully once the smoke clears around here and this COVID situation calms down a little bit, for us to be able to meet in person and to be able to share a couple more wins with each other. But again, just thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. Just wish you and Kendrick the best of luck. So thanks again.
Cool. Thanks, Nick. I enjoyed being here, and hopefully this was helpful for everybody. There's a lot of opportunity in the real estate space, so let's all go get it together.
Awesome. Thanks again, Luke. Thanks everybody for tuning in. See you next Wednesday when we have the COO of Douglas Elliman joining us. All right. Until then, take it easy, everybody. Thanks again.
Thanks, guys.